Hello, it's Pleasance from Little Om Yoga, and I'm here today with David Ingalls, and I just have a few questions that I want to ask him before we start our new Mysore Study Group on Thursday mornings at 6 a.m. starting in July. So, David, when did you start practicing yoga?
Okay, so by yoga, are you saying Ashtanga or?
What was your first yoga experience?
No, my first yoga experience would have been meditating in 1971.
Okay, and why did you start meditating?
Yeah, it's a good question because for some reason I was really good friends with an Episcopal priest. We'd have these big discussions, and he just looked at me one day and said, "You don't think like a Westerner." And he said, "You think like an Easterner?" He gave me a couple of books, and it sort of put me on this, this particular path. And from then on, what was available, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi was teaching Transcendental meditation. It seemed to be a good fit in those days, and went to it right away.
Okay. And then how did your meditation practice transfer to a mat-based practice or your asana practice? Was it directly to Ashtanga, or what happened then?
So 30 years down the line, lots of meditation, lots of months and months and months of meditation and practice and teacher trainings and all that kind of stuff. The mat never really occurred until just as a runner, I felt like I was getting too stiff, and friends said there are some hatha yoga practices that are more athletic. We think you'd like them. And so I started pursuing that simply as an alternative to running.
What year was that? When was that?
Oh, you and your years.
Well, around when? Or how old were you?
I was 46, 47 when I started.
With your Ashtanga practice?
Yeah, literally.
And you went to India to study?
I spent a year on my own just watching videotape.
Of Pattabhi Jois? Or?
Richard Freeman.
Okay.
Then I went and spent a summer with Richard Freeman. So I was teaching elementary school at the time, and I spent
which cracks me up.
I spent a summer with Richard Freeman, sort of trying to work out, because I'd only done the video and I didn't have a teacher, and there was nobody in the area really teaching that particular style.
Okay.
And so I went, and he was my first teacher, and I spent time there, and found out that I liked it, and that there was a lot that I wasn't getting from the video. Obviously, having a personal teacher made a big difference. Then I spent another year where I just came back and did more independent study. I was traveling up to New York on my weekends, taking class with Dharma. I took class at Jiva Mukti. And took class at Eddie Stearns, just trying to get a feel of all. Everybody said they were teaching Ashtanga, and then I realized it was all quite different. And then towards the end of my school year, I hadn't really planned on it. The thought came, go to India. So I think it was about 3 months or 3 weeks. And I wrote a letter, sent it to Pattabhi Jois, finding out that's what I had to do. No, of course, you never hear back, but in no time I was on a plane.
And how was that experience? Like, what happened with your practice then?
So that practice in India totally changes everything, because that's all you do is practice. So you don't have all the daily distractions. So, once you get through meeting Pattabhi and all this kind of stuff, 12 people in the room was all there ever was. You would wait for him to tell you to come in, you come in, and he interviews you before you practice. He wants to know who you are, who you've practiced with. Yeah. He doesn't really care how good you are. That makes no difference whatsoever. But I think he wants a sense of whether or not he can work with you, because he did turn people away.
But he didn't turn you away.
He didn't turn me away, and we actually seemed to like each other. And I'm not one of those ultra flexible people.
Yeah.
And the first time he did backbends with me, he dropped me on my head. He goes, "Oh, not flexible back." Boom. Yeah. Down on my head. Like, no. And I just let him do what he was used to doing to me, and I just gave in. And after 3 months, it was, it's a different body.
You were there for 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after all that time, he says a month to get to know you, a month to break you down, a month to put you back together. And then once you know the system, you don't have to keep going back for so long.
Right.
I never did go back, but that it taught me how to practice. It taught me the value of regular practice and the value of really getting on the mat with that technique.
What does your practice look like today?
Totally different.
In what way? And
Well,
why?
Well, mostly why? Because I've spent more time with more teachers. I spent a lot of time sort of tracing back what are the roots of Ashtanga, how does it relate to Krishnamacharya, which is where we get all this yoga from. And so now having studied with teachers who have a little broader knowledge from what Pattabhi had. Pattabhi learned as a kid, so he teaches what he learned as a kid to adults, and there's a big mismatch in that. So it's taken years to sort of, I don't know what I want to say, adjust my practice so that it's age appropriate, size appropriate, daily appropriate. And those are, that's hard to adjust from an Ashtanga background, because Ashtanga is very much a one-size-fits-all, the way most people teach it, not everybody.
And who are your biggest teachers or influences now?
Yeah, so now I study a fair amount with A.G. and Indra Mohan. I'm very interested in that side of the vinyasa equation. It's more therapeutic. It's more specific. You can use these postures to do specific things and create specific results. And that's sort of what my practice is now. Is, well, if I need energy, then, I can do my headstand, handstand, back bends. If I need to calm down, I can do another set of postures. And so that's sort of what I would like to get into with this Mysore group that we will be introducing.
That's my next question. Tell me a little bit about the group that you're creating on Thursday mornings and what the purpose is and where we want to grow it.
Right. So if we say it's Ashtanga-based or Mysore-based, it just means that it's sort of independent study. You have to get on the mat and do the practice. We'll give you the outline, whether it's an Ashtanga outline, which means you have sun salutations, standing postures, and then possibly floor postures. But the idea is to develop a system for you that works for you, that you can modify in a given day for what you want. And it means you have to learn to think about yourself, think about your practice, and adjust. Not just get on the mat and do the same thing every day.
Right. Or just do what the teacher tells you.
Yeah, or just do what the teacher, which creates a certain stupidity in the yoga community. You may get a lot of postures, but there's no inward adjusting. And it's sort of, it always, to some degree, it hurts now to watch old-time Ashtangis.
Why?
Because they're mechanical, and they're not. There's not much attention to what's going on inside.
Why, this is my last question, it's kind of big. Why is yoga valuable? So I hear you saying the difference between the, mechanics and what's going on behind it and what your awareness is, but why is any of that? What's the purpose of that? What's been the benefit to you or to your life, or what's the value of it?
Yeah. So in general, most yoga that we get in yoga studios these days is essentially what I call yoga for fitness. And its value is in just simply creating a healthy physical mechanism. Of course, we don't really know how healthy it is because most of us haven't been practicing that long. If we did it from kids through adulthood, through my age and longer, then we really begin to see how that yoga affects long-term health. It's only one side of the whole yoga equation, which is where we are. Ultimately, there's and that's the hardest part to talk about, is ultimately what is yoga, and it means about, and it's always hard to say, understanding the relationship you have to the infinite or you have to the source. That's not easy to teach. It's not easy to put on a mat. It's not easy to put in an asana class. But until you can start to quiet the mind down, either with your practice, a mental practice, a physical practice, or some other practice, you can't approach that system, which is ultimately what I was interested in, which is why I did the meditation. So this is, the physical practice is much more entertaining.
Mm-hmm. Are
And
you
I
still
like it.
meditating?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
But I still like,
But-
I like the physical practice.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. But it's, in my mind, it's not yoga. It's just part of a bigger picture.
Right.
It is a practice. And it feels great to be healthy. I like that part.
Yeah. Cool.
What else?
That's it.
Okay.
So, thank you.
See you Thursday mornings.
Yay.